Hello, everybody. This is Paola Guthrie from Creating Purpose with Paola, and I welcome you to the Spanglish World Network and Heart Network on Zingo TV channels 250 and 251. Please remember to download Zingo TV app on the respective app stores. When you download it, please rate it. The app is totally free. Zingo TV is available in Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire TV Stick, Roku Stick, and all smart TVs from 2016 and forward. Thank you, everyone who's here joining us today in the house. We have a beautiful guest. She is Nokha Dakroub. She is a founder of Better Space Mediation and Therapy. She also has a background social work, and also she used to be a member of a school board member, and she's here in the house to teach us about her wisdom. So thank you for being here and welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here with you, Paola, and I'm grateful for this opportunity to connect with your viewers and share more about some of the great work that I've been able to do in the past, and the work that I'm continuing to do and hopefully will do in the future.
Yes, thank you. So please share with us the purpose of Better Space Meditation and Therapy.
So it's not meditation, it's mediation. So
thank you for correcting
that. Not a problem. So the purpose of Better Space is really, it's really about creating a better space in our community and a better space individually and for us all. We offer individual therapy services. We work with clients who are experiencing anxiety, depression, panic attacks, relationship issues, self-esteem issues, any insecurity related issues. Work stress management, all of those kinds of things that really impact our day-to-day life and really impact everyone at some point in our lives. We also offer couples therapy, so it's for couples who are experiencing difficulties in their relationship, whether that's communication or any other issues. So I work with couples quite a bit, actually. And the other service we provide is I'm also a family mediator, and I provide family mediation services for families who are experiencing breakdown in their relationships, so separation, where we help the parties come to agreements, which can then be taken to a lawyer to create a formal separation agreement.
Oh, wow. I mean, as a social worker and being able to provide these services, therapy, what are the main challenges that you think people are dealing with?
So it's quite interesting, and I always find so many themes among people. Individually, a lot of people, especially couples, struggle with communication. They struggle with, parenting differences. They struggle with financial issues. They may not be on the same page in terms of finances. So those are very common themes that I see in the couples therapy work. I also see a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress. The pandemic has created a shift in our thinking, which is in a way good, but also has been stressful to get here, where we are striving to live happier lives. We are striving to have, work-life balance and some sort of balance. And therapy helps with that, because it's, we used to live in a very fast-paced, very driven world where everything was about go, 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 go. And for a long time, for, almost 3 years now, we've been forced to slow down. And when we're forced to slow down, we're forced to, see ourselves and get to know ourselves, and really have a look at our lives and what that looks like. So I see a lot of individuals struggle with anxiety, and related anxiety related issues, relationship issues are very common. And to be honest, some of it is also in relation to the world that we live in. So the current housing crisis impacts people in so many different ways. The current, the post-pandemic world impacts people in so many ways. The economy impacts people in so many ways. So you see people who, are struggling and with common struggles, but how it's really manifesting for them individually.
And when is a good time to seek out help? Like, let's say we're having problems communicating in the marriage. When is a good time to say, okay, we need help?
Anytime, as soon as possible. I would recommend, the sooner you start working on issues, the more chances we have to really fully resolve them, and the more chances we have to look. We're not born with all these skills, right? These are skills that we have to learn over time, and we don't learn them, unfortunately. Nobody teaches us how to communicate in a relationship. Nobody teaches us how to express our deepest fears and needs. And we don't know how to do those things. So what ends up happening is people get into relationships and they start having difficulties, and they don't know where to go. They don't know where to turn. So that's what couples therapy is there for.
And it's okay. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay not to know, not to know the right path. So I love that it's becoming more normal to hear about therapy.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, people still have a right to privacy and still have a right to confidentiality, and they don't have to share that. But there has been a change in our understanding of it as a society, and that's been very good. And maybe COVID had something to do with that.
Yes. What about anxiety, stress? When is the right time for them to be like, okay, I can no longer manage this anxiety, this stress? When would be a good time for anybody in our audience that might be dealing with, the anxiety, the stress episodes? When is a good time for them to say, okay, enough is enough, I need help?
So again, anytime, and as soon as possible, because with anxiety, we kind of get into a bit of avoidance, right? So when something makes you anxious, whatever it is, it could be, driving a car, or it could be, a particular issue in a relationship. It could be many different things that could trigger anxiety. But we start getting into avoidance. And once you start, because that's what's comfortable, and it's expected, right? So if something makes you anxious, you're going to try to avoid it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But what happens is that gives you very short-term comfort, and you end up becoming more anxious about it in the future. So, the longer you allow anxiety to be in control, the less free you are to really live your life and make your own decisions. And all of a sudden, you're being controlled by anxiety, which is really fear. So as soon as possible, as soon as, you're able to recognize that, what, this is something I really need to deal with. But of course, people are at different stages. They have different comfort levels. So, sometimes it does take time for people to actually seek help.
Okay. Yeah. And I appreciate your work. I want to bring this up to our beautiful audience. The marriage, it's kind of like that foundation of our community. So it starts in that marriage, and then it passes on to our kids, right? And then we build that community together. So it's very important to work in that communication, to make the strong bond between the husband and the wife, so the kids will watch, because we're modeling to our children. So if we learn, and it's okay to learn.
Absolutely.
we're born, because I used to think, well, I'm born this way and that's it. No, like the moment that I knew that I had a window of opportunity to become a better person,
Yeah.
then it's like, oh wow, then everything became, to improve. So for anybody out there, it's like anybody that might be struggling in their marriage, it's so important to find the right tools, to right techniques that it would help your marriage to flourish, because like
Absolutely. And exactly what you just said, you're modeling behavior to your children, you're modeling relationships to your children, you're modeling respect to your children, you're modeling love to your children, you're showing them what love looks like, right? So, and don't we all want to show our kids the best version of ourselves and the best version of our partner? Why not?
yes, definitely. So like thanks for being here, and sharing your knowledge about when is the right time for us to like seek, for the help. What it means, it could be one strategy, it could be one technique that once we implement it, we begin to see the beauty of that relationship. So
Yeah, absolutely.
yes. What were your priorities as a school board member? Like, what role did you play? What was behind your purpose?
So at the school board, I had a very strong passion for public education, and that's why I ran for the school board. And that's really what drove most of the work that I did. A lot of the work that I've done in public education has focused on human rights and equity within the public education system, and what that looks like for a society in the future, right? I strongly believe that the public education system is the cornerstone of a functioning and inclusive democracy, which means that the role that it plays is bigger than just teaching math and science and reading, although those things are very important, of course. So the work that I really focused on was around how to make our schools more inclusive. How do we ensure that all students, regardless of their faith backgrounds or their racial backgrounds or ethnic community backgrounds, how do we make sure that every student has every potential to succeed? How do we get rid of barriers that are in their way? And how do we look at the education system as not only a way to really deliver math and science, but also as a way of of shaping future generations and shaping future societies. And that's really what my focus was during my 8 years at the school board.
Wow. Is there something that like you walked away with? You're like, we did that. It's like,
Yeah.
Can you share that?
Two things. So I was one of the two trustees that advocated for the review of the Peel District School Board on racism and governance issues. And that actually ended up with the ministry taking over the school board because of discrimination issues and human rights issues and governance. And they were under supervision for the school board was under supervision for two years or so, and a lot of things changed as a result of that. A lot of policies changed, and overhaul in the bylaws changed. The way things were done changed. A lot of systemic issues that were so deeply ingrained that I couldn't have changed myself. It would have taken me 27 years or 30 years to do every single thing. But when the ministry actually stepped in, and I'm very grateful for the minister for doing that, they were able to implement a series of changes in a shorter period of time as a result of supervision. So that was something I was very proud of. I still am very proud of. I also brought in the first ever anti-Islamophobia strategy in Canada, I think possibly even North America, which is very needed. That work is very needed. We have members of the Muslim community who are consistently being targeted for hate crimes, and Peel serves a very, very large Muslim community, which is where the school board is located. So that was work that I advocated for and I championed. I also brought in Heritage Months. So all the Heritage Months that are celebrated in every school across, well, not all the Heritage Months, but the faith-based Heritage Months that are now celebrated across the region. That was something I championed. I've done a few things. I was always an advocate for special education and more funding for special education. Harmonized the transportation distances with the Catholic board because that had been an issue. So there was a difference of, who qualifies for busing and things like that. Yeah.
Awesome. Now, and this is just a little bit, of what you have done, because I know you also you love politics, right?
Mm.
And what's
little bit, yeah.
So now that you serve, in the education area, how do you want to serve, in the politics area of your community?
So that's a question that I get asked very frequently, especially these days. So I actually had a plan of how I wanted to continue serving our community, and I decided to run for city council in my local area here in Ward 9 because the local councillor was retiring, so it just made sense. I had served the community for 8 years. And it just made sense that I of course I'm very passionate about our local issues. I'm very passionate about what's going on at the municipal level also. So I did run for that, and I came very, very close, very, very close. But unfortunately, the voters of Ward 9 had different plans, which I understand. It's hard to take a defeat, but it's part of being in politics, so it's happens. So that was kind of my plan, and now I'm kind of, I've had an opportunity to take a step back and really do other things that I also enjoy. Part of that is Better Space. Better Space wouldn't have existed if I hadn't lost an election. So it's kind of, in a way, I get to live another dream for now, at least. But in the future, is public office in my future? Possibly, maybe even likely. But it's just a matter of figuring out what would be the right time and what would be the right opportunity and where I could serve best. I'm very passionate about housing policy and solving the housing crisis. I tweet about that all the time. I'm very passionate about healthcare. I spent many years also working as a social worker in a hospital. And I'm also, of course, very passionate about education. So those are really the three issues that I spend a lot of time, or the three areas that I spend a lot of time thinking about.
Now, teach us and tell us what was your learning experience? Because you said you got defeated, and nobody likes that. But we learn through it. Whenever things don't come the way we think they don't turn out. We still, we win. In reality, like we end up with a huge win because we earned the experience. So could you share with us what was your winning in your experience value?
So absolutely. So I think one of my biggest takeaways, and for me personally, and maybe this is something that I'm kind of holding on to now, is don't be too focused and rigid with your plans. Right. So I had I had planned to run for council after the school board. I had, wanted to do that for a long time. And that was my plan. And that was what's, on my radar. And that was what I was going to do. And one of the things that, it's not that I didn't think that I could lose. Of course, everybody thinks that they could lose. It's, you get very anxious when running an election for that reason. But I think what I learned is that have plans and have dreams, but don't forget that, if things doesn't work out, there will be other things that will come up. And like I said, Better Space wouldn't have existed if it wasn't for me losing the election. I wouldn't have even thought about. I've always thought about, starting my own practice, but the idea that, that Better Space would be a thing that would have, that would have never been a reality. It wasn't even a thought in my mind. A year ago, when I was, in October, when I was still knocking doors and asking people to vote for me. So I think that's my biggest takeaway. And maybe perhaps that's why I'm so hesitant to really pick a specific plan or pick about, people ask me all the time, well, what are you going to do next? What are you going to do next? I'm always like, oh, I don't know. We'll see. And maybe that's why. It's because I've learned to just be more open to possibilities and not be specifically rigid on what I want to do.
And being brave to say, this is what I stand for. Not very many people, have the bravery. It's like, this is what I stand for, and it's like, this is what I see. Yeah. I'm pretty sure you had people saying, no, it should be this way. But it's like, we're brave and, public figure in your community as well. So that's that, to me, is like, oh wow. That's impressive.
It does take, it takes some courage. It certainly takes courage, and putting yourself out there in a way that's so public for everybody to criticize and have opinions and everything that comes with that. You have to develop some thick skin. You have to be understanding that not everybody's going to like you. There's thousands and thousands of people out there, and there will be 50 that don't like you, and you have to be okay with that. Yeah. But the other thing is, I think it's being able to, it's really humbling, to be honest. It takes a lot of discipline. It's a lot of work to run for office. It's about engaging individual residents one by one, really. And I find that experience quite humbling. And really, it gives you a really strong understanding of the issues that people are experiencing in their lives. And I always believe that all politics is local. Everything is local. Everything is about how an individual experiences, political issues in their own lives.
Yeah. What are you doing right now?
Right now?
Yeah, tell us about it's like, it's just following that trajectory of like being brave, and this is what you stand. Your service is like you are serving at different levels.
Yeah,
and that's what I see. You were serving at the hospital. You're serving as a school board member, serving and trying to be in politics. You were serving your people. You were trying to see solving housing issues, trying to solve education and health.
Yeah.
And now you continue to serve, in your space. So what else are you doing? What's coming up?
So I'm starting my own podcast. So and that's never been on my radar. I think what I'm doing. You asked me what am I doing now. I think I'm just exploring so many different opportunities to serve the community in many different ways. But you're right. There's an element of bravery. I will say I tend to be quite courageous. I'm very, very brave. And I think I've always been brave. It's always been kind of innate. One of the things that I'm working on and I'm learning as I get older is being more patient, because brave is great, but you can't just be brave and not patient. You have to learn, patience. You have to learn, how to manage conflict, how to deal with things when you don't get what you want, and how to really try to get people on your side. But yeah, I'm still advocating. I still do. I do some writing here and there. Focusing on Better Space quite a bit right now, and trying to be still visible in the community that I used to serve. I'm always here for people. I still get calls from residents about issues, and I try to help. Point them in the right direction, because I can't fix anything myself. But yeah, that's really about it. I'm a mom, so I have a daughter who keeps me busy, very busy, and that's kind of where I'm at right now.
That's beautiful. Now let's go back to whenever you're talking about being brave, right? And there's times that we have to choose to serve at a high level, but that not everyone will like you. We're so afraid of this, and this has to do with mental health.
Yeah.
But we're so afraid of not being liked. Like, as a teacher, you have to be strict at times and tell the students, like, it's this way.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're in my classroom. These are the steps that you have to take.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we don't have that discipline, because we want to be liked. And you were like, oh, you cross over your own boundaries, like, okay, I guess, yeah, sure, go. You can go. I'll give you 5 minutes, like the bell just rang and can I go get a snack? And they know the rules, but sometimes you have to be on that spot or that step where it's like, I know you're not going to like me, but this is what this is what we have to do. So how could you advise our beautiful audience right now to gain that a little bit of bravery in being okay if they're not liked by that community or their close relatives or students?
Yeah. So certainly in my world as a school board trustee at the time, or in political world in general, you have a lot more exposure to that. You have a lot more exposure to people not liking you. They don't agree with what you're doing. They don't agree with what you're saying. And you have to have a strong sense that what you're doing is the right thing. Right? That's, for me, and we can call it bravery, but for me, it's always come from this very strong sense that what the right thing is, and not just for me, like, we're not talking about us. When we talk about the housing crisis, for example, we're talking about future generations. I'm not talking about myself, right? We're talking about my kids' generation and the one after that, right? And people who are coming into the country, and other people, and what's better for society in general. So my advice would be is to ask yourself, what's the right thing to do? Right? What's, if you're a teacher, what's in the best interest of the student? Is it in the best interest of the student that I let them do whatever they want? Or is it in their best interest for me to say, look, we've got rules that we have to follow? And it's the same thing when you think about it from a community perspective. Where do we want to be in 30 years on whatever particular issue, right? Do we want to, what kind of society do we want to create, and do we want to build? And when you ask yourself those questions, it won't be as difficult. And when you find the answers, when you really, really, really dig deep and you really find the answers and you really believe in what you're doing, people not liking you won't be that hard. It really won't be.
Because you're fulfilling your purpose.
Because you're fulfilling a purpose and you're really, and it's never really about you, right? When we talk about purpose, it's not about me, right? It's never about me. It's about how am I making things better for future generations or for other people who are a part of our community.
Yeah. How are we shining our light?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's like one of my most satisfying times right now is helping adult students get their GED, helping them study to get their high school diploma.
My daughter's just here.
I have a daughter too.
The joys of Zoom.
Yes, we sent her love.
Yeah.
And it's so, it's so, you could think it's like, oh, that's so silly. But it's like, I feel like I'm shining my light to tell them, you got this. Like all you have to do is like just continue to read a little bit more, then your muscle will get used to reading and comprehending. And I'm like, oh wow, it's like I am shining the light. And I go home with a big satisfaction. And it's not for me. But I know it's part of fulfilling the purpose that I'm doing something and passing down that light, helping others. So I understand what you mean.
Absolutely, for sure. And teachers are, for me as somebody who spent a lot of time in education, and as a mom, I think teachers are the most important people in the world because of exactly what you just said, right?
Yes.
How much better would our world be if every student, if every child grew up around adults who believed in them, who told them, taught them how not to give up on their dreams and help them, push through their fears to learn what they need to learn.
And I love now teachers are getting trainings, like especially here, as like there are more opportunities for teachers to go to training. And I think that's a blessing because they get to see other ways, things to implement in the classroom. I am an example of it. Like I taught for the first 2 years back in 2017 as a emergency certified.
Mm-hmm.
And then whenever those 2 years were up, I dedicated myself to go to conference, seminars, reading books. It's like I dive into the self-development world.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, it was a pandemic time. And then I had the opportunity to go back to teach the same level, high school students, but with so much more wisdom that I was a totally, completely, educator because of the training, and I still am. And I'm like, oh, wow, like more understanding, is like try to compassion, gratitude, like implement that in the classroom. And I'm like, wow. And I'm very grateful to see that teachers are, especially here, that I see that there is training opportunities for them because it is needed.
Absolutely, for sure. And we all need training, and we all need consistent training, right? And we all need to continuously learn and grow, right? Nobody's perfect. Nobody, becomes a perfect teacher overnight. You get a teaching degree. I have a teaching degree. It doesn't make me perfect, right? So, it's in every profession, it's always about learning, growing. How do we get better at what we do? How do we continue to practice with passion, with compassion, with care? So absolutely, I think trainings are very important.
Yes. How are the trainings there in Canada? What's the protocol for teachers or?
So right now, it's a 2-year degree, called, they call it Teachers College. That's after post-secondary. So you do 4 years bachelor, and then you do the 2-year degree. But I think there's talks about reducing it to 1 year. It used to be 1 year, then they made it 2 years, and then they might make it 1 year again because of the teacher shortage. So we'll see where that lands. But really, you know, it isn't just the 1 year or the 2 years. It's the continuous learning and the professional development that and the experience. You know, you have to actually experience things in order to become good at them.
Yes, I totally agree. And here for our beautiful audience that might be struggling because they might not, think that they're not getting it right. It's like just the consistency, and keeping, the attention and intention of what you're working on. It will take you, it could be, you might be trying to learn how to deal with finances better. It could be, that you want to have a better marriage, better parenting, better relationship with your kids, have a wonderful time at work and at home, because it is possible. It is possible. You don't have to have one or the other. Strategies and techniques, you're able to enjoy your time at work and also at home. That's one of the beauties, one of the gifts that I was given through brain health and training. So
yeah, absolutely. Work-life balance is extremely important. We don't just live to work. We work to live. Yeah. And I think in North America, and, for decades and decades, the idea was that we live to work, right? We focus on that so much. The majority of our time is spent at work, and that's great. It's not great. That's, it's great if you have a job that you love so much. It's really good, because then it doesn't feel like work. That's a good thing. But life isn't just work. And how do you find a balance? And it's different for everybody. What does that look like? When we talk about work-life balance, we ask people, what does that look like for you? Right? Does it look like, taking more vacations? Does it look like spending more time with your partner? Does it look like, I don't know, going to art galleries? Does it look like, practicing a hobby that you haven't made time for? Does it look like going to the gym? What does it look like, right? And everybody has different things that are meaningful to them, different things that fill their cup. For a lot of people, they want to spend time with their family and their children. For a lot of people, they want to travel. So it really depends on you. What work-life balance looks like for you. But really, it's about integrating some time for yourself to de-stress, to relax, to enjoy life and what it has to offer outside of work commitments.
Beautiful. Yes, because it could be totally different to me, than it is to you. So yeah, what does it look like to you? And what could you do? What are step 1, 2, and 3 that you could start now? That it's building that, it's building that idea of enjoying your time at work and after work. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So are there any specific policies or initiatives that you're currently advocating, right now in your community? I know you say you're taking time. It's probably mental health. I'm guessing that's probably what you're advocating.
Yes, absolutely. Always advocating for mental health. But more recently, I would say in the past 2 days, I've been advocating a lot for fourplexes, which are part of the strategy to alleviate the housing crisis, which unfortunately didn't pass at the city of Mississauga this past Wednesday. I continue to advocate for that. I hope that the officials at our city bring back the motion and consider it again and pass it, because it's not the only solution for the housing crisis, but it is a step in the right direction. So that's something that's the most recent thing I've been vocal about.
Do you mean like, do you want more fourplexes, or they're not allowed?
Right now, they're not allowed in Mississauga. So I know there are certain municipalities that allow them, and this is not an issue. But in Mississauga, that they're not allowed currently. So we're advocating to, not just me, but a lot of other people that are way smarter than me, to allow them. But unfortunately, that didn't work out this week. But council is planning to, council has asked staff to bring back a report with community consultations and recommendations. So hopefully in the future, hopefully soon, that they will reconsider that and pass it.
Okay. What about your podcast? Tell us a little bit about it. What is it about? What's the message that you want to bring?
Yeah, absolutely. So podcast is the Better Space podcast, and maybe you could join me sometime and I'll ask you a whole bunch of questions. It's really about getting to know individuals who are working to make our community a better place, or better space. So that's kind of the focus of the podcast. We are, the first episode, I've already recorded it. That's going to be posted or released or whatever in a few weeks. I'm aiming for October 26th for a couple of reasons. One is the election anniversary, when things didn't go my way, is October 24th. So it would be 1 year from then. But also my first guest is my opponent who beat me, who's now a good friend. So it's a bit of a full circle. And it's kind of cool to do that.
How did you feel about recording your first podcast? What did you learn from the first experience?
So I didn't know anything about podcasts. Like nothing. My whole, I think since I was 19, I've been doing interviews. I started doing a show that did political debates when I was like 19 years old. And then from then, I just kept kind of doing stuff, and then ran for office, got elected. There's a lot of interviews involved in that. So my skills were kind of came along as I evolved as a human being. I have no media training, like none of that. And then one day I was like, oh, what I could do? I could start a podcast. And then I'm like, what do I need for a podcast? And I had no idea. And I had to figure out the technical pieces, because that was the difficult part for me. So I had to figure out, what microphone to use and cameras and all those kinds of things. And then and just how to structure it. Outside of that, it was kind of cool. It was a good conversation. It kind of flowed, kind of like how we're doing now. So it went quite well. And now I'm learning about editing, because, I don't know anything about editing either. So I feel like I'm expanding my skills and learning things that I would have never, ever learned. So it's good.
That's fascinating. It's fascinating. Yes. I understand where you're at. Where you're like, oh, how can I edit this? And you didn't think you could, but then you learn one step at a time. Then you have a new skill. So that's beautiful.
Absolutely.
How do you do it all? Like you're a mom, you love your profession, you're serving your community. Any moms out there that are in between serving versus, but I have a daughter, it's like, sometimes we go through that guilt stage. What would you tell them?
So you have to practice a lot of self-care. Okay. Because you've got to take care of yourself, and you have to keep in mind where your number one priority is. And my number one priority is my child. Of course, it should be for everybody. But you also have to be passionate about what you're doing, because if that makes it easier, right? When you are doing something that you love, when you are doing something that you enjoy, it doesn't feel like it doesn't feel like work. It doesn't feel draining. It doesn't bring you down. So that's really important, to find something that you really, really are passionate about, that really, you wake up in the morning, you're ready to go. It makes you so excited, makes your heart beat a little bit faster. So that's number one. And the other thing, this is a more of a practical tip, which I'm working on getting much, much better at. I used to be good at this, but now I think I'm needing to be even better at it. Learn how to schedule. Scheduling, it's a skill. It really is. And I've struggled with that. But it's an important skill to learn.
Okay, beautiful. I mean, thank you so much for being here with us, sharing your knowledge, sharing a little bit about you and how you've learned, through the trajectory of this life stages in your life. Do you have a last minute message for our beautiful audience today?
Absolutely. So, just keep working to create that better space for yourself, for your family, internally, externally, for our community. That's really all I want to share. And I'm very happy to be here. Thank you very much, Paola, for having me. And it was a pleasure.
You're so welcome. Where can they find you? Is anyone in here in that audience that want to learn more about you? Where could they find you? Guide them to your podcast. Where could they find your podcast?
So, absolutely. So they can find me at Better Space Online on Instagram. They can also find me at Nokha Dakroub on Twitter if they're more interested in the political stuff. And they can also find me at www.better-space.ca.
Okay, thank you so much. Just a short recap. You work with couples, you work with people that want to better their skill as parenting, in their parenting, financial issues, anxiety, stress. Did you also guide them? Like if they're having financial issues, can they also come to you?
Not so much about the financial issues. It's more so around communicating around finances.
Okay, just communicating about finances. Okay, yes. And hey, ask for help. Because it could be just that one strategy, it could be just that one technique that could truly make a huge difference in the dynamic of your family, starting with your husband, starting with the wife, the kids. So please ask for help. It is okay. There are professionals out there that they can help you all. Thank you, a beautiful audience. Thank you, Nokha, for being here with us and spending your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. So this show can also be heard on Spanglish Radio Network. Please check out SpanglishWorld.ca for all news and programming. Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it. Blessings, and we'll see you soon.